Gears of War 4 is Gears of War, number 4. Sorry for pointing out the obvious there, but that is all I got from this game. As always with this series, I take a game from the Xbox Game Pass library and play through its main story campaign to see what I think. I chose Gears of War 4 this time around as I want to get onto Gears 5 and did not yet play this one. After playing through it though, I kind of wish I could have skipped it and gone straight to 5, but it was necessary though to understand the story so far, I guess. The story is similar to many science fiction mindless action movies you may have seen, something like Starship Troopers and the likes. There are themes of team building, family members in trouble and taking out hundreds of monsters. You do get introduced to Kate, JD and Del. If you play the game in single player as I did, you will be mainly controlling JD for the most part. I mentioned Kate first however, as she seems to be the one the main story is about to some degree, and by the looks of things even more so in the next outing. JD and Del are ex-COG members, while Kate is from a group of survivors that salvage old COG weapons and tools to survive. The game is set 25 years after Gears of War 3, which saw Marcus Phoenix and his band of merry men taking down the Locust Queen and ending the Locust threat, or so they thought. As the game starts out without Locust, you end up having to fight the new COG robots to be able to salvage supplies from the main COG bases. The robots are supposed to use non-lethal violence, but the lady in charge decides that's no longer effective enough, so they get set to kill rather than stun, just as JD, Kate and Co decide to try and salvage a fabricator from a COG base. Needless to say, you complete your mission and when you arrive back at the survivor village, you suddenly find the village under attack by the new COG robot army, and have to use the fabricator you recovered to defend the village. This introduces a new tower defense-like mission to the game. In these missions you have a set amount of time to place down defences. These are built in the fabricator and can range from automated gun turrets to fencing to slow down or incapacitate the enemy. Once the timer is up, the wave will start and you must defend the objective from the horde of enemies incoming. In this setting and in this instance, this mission has merit and is kind of cool. However, the mission type is used multiple times throughout the game and starts to wear thin very quickly. This scene here actually filled me with dread rather than getting me ready for the fight.
Backup's on its way.
How long before he gets here?
Long enough that we'll need this.
Now I stated that this scene filled me with dread, but this is not because of what was going to be attacking us, although this can be somewhat of a challenge, but more because I knew I was going to be stuck here doing this again and again for at least 3 waves, when really all I wanted to do was move on to the next part of the story. The tower defense is really the only new thing brought to the series in this outing, and as I stated, a one-off use would have stood out much more and been much cooler in my eyes than repeating it again and again. The rest of the game did feel like a repeat of everything we have seen before from the Gears of War franchise, so feeling this about the one and only new feature by the end of the game makes me worried that they will use it over and over in the future too. After defending the village from the COG robots, and as your friends are licking their wounds and trying to recoup and recover overnight, the village is attacked again. This time by a new Locust type enemy named the Swarm. These ravage the village and take away some of their members. It is from here on your team decide to set out and get them back. The gameplay itself is what you may have become accustomed to. The guns feel great and they have some substance to them. The world feels big and heavy as it usually does in these games. The game uses the opening of giant heavy doors and the removal of debris as a kind of stopgap to allow the game to load in the background, and as always I feel Gears of War do this fairly well. It is abundantly obvious when you walk into a large room with lots of waist-high walls around you that some sort of battle is about to erupt here. But that is Gears of War, that is what you come to expect, and in all fairness it's some of what I enjoy from the series. If I have just picked up the torque bow for the first time for instance, I am looking for the next area like this so that I can test it out on a few targets in the back and not have to worry about them once I see them blown into 100 tiny pieces. When it comes to the gameplay and the aesthetic, the Coalition nailed it. They got the sound and visuals correct, they got the feeling of the world correct, and it instantly feels like Gears of War from the offset. The improved graphics, especially on the Xbox One X, which I played on, does also help bring it to life that little bit more and then gives the characters even more life, which is pleasing to the eye and makes the whole thing that bit more believable. There are a few annoyances here and there. For instance, if you are playing solo, there are times when the game could end because the AI-controlled Kate has been killed. As such, you need to keep the enemies focused on you if they are the types that can end the game for you, which makes it even worse because if they kill you, then it's definitely over and you have to reload the last checkpoint, which could be a few waves of enemies back and really slow progression. From here on in, it's the same game, different scenario. There is nothing in this game that you won't feel you have already seen and done before if you are a Gears fan. Apart from the defense missions which we spoke about, but in the end they are also just a horde mode type event, which the game is for the most part anyway. You are led down one corridor after another until you find a room to fight a few waves as expected. You will encounter a boss every now and then, although I did feel these were fewer in number compared to previous editions, and I also feel that they did not really offer that much of a challenge. Any boss that may have required any kind of strategical thinking is quickly overcome by the NPCs screaming out every 2 seconds on what you need to be doing even whilst doing it. The final act of the game sees you fighting in big mech suits, kind of like some Japanese manga style showdown, which for me took away some of the impact as it made me feel like the game was now letting me play in easy mode at this point. All of the big bad enemies, the ones that would take more bullets or pinpoint accuracy to take down, could now be mowed down instantly in this suit, and as the final boss is fought in this suit, it took away the feeling of a grand boss fight that took everything I had learned so far to defeat. Instead it felt more of a quick time event and then it was done, which is a shame. The game did feel like it was setting the foundations in a new story direction for future editions, however it did not innovate enough to make me feel that it would be worth keeping up with it in the future. Gears 5 may change my opinion as it is out already at the time of making this video, and I hear that this time they are actually trying to do more with the game. If this is true or not remains to be seen. As for Gears of War 4, the game currently scores 84 on Metacritic with a user score of 6.9. There are 75 achievements to collect as standard for 1000G and 164 with all DLC for a huge 4000G. The average time to beat the main game is around 11 hours. For me, I am with the user base on this one. The game is good enough, it does everything a Gears game should do, and if this is your first time playing a Gears game, it's fine. It's not the best, but it's good enough to get you into the story and ready for future editions. As I have played most of the major games Gears, only missing out on Judgment, I have to say that this was a little lacking for me. With the Gears pedigree and the way games move on these days, I expected something more from this one, and as such, Games Done Wrongish scores Gears of War 4 on Game Pass 7 out of 10. If you are subscribed to Game Pass, have 10 to 11 hours spare and want to experience Gears of War, then hop right in. It will ease you in with not too much resistance and hopefully set you up for better games from the series in the future. If you are not really that interested in the backstory and just want to see what all the fuss is about, I would say try the earlier ones instead or jump straight into Gears 5. This is not a must-play game but could be a good gateway into the series is all I can say about it. What are your thoughts on Gears 4 and will you be playing 5 after it? Let me know in the comments below and I will see you next time.
If you like this video, please consider watching another. 2 suggestions will be on screen now. Also, if you have not subscribed already, please do so by clicking the icon in the middle of this screen. Every view and subscription will go a long way to helping the channel grow, and in turn will result in more content for you. Thank you, and until the next time, goodbye.